Scores of Cameroonian schoolchildren are now free, just days after being kidnapped by a separatist group. A major development in U.S. politics. Democrats win the House, while Republicans add to their Senate majority. What does this split decision mean for the Trump presidency? And how female coders in Kenya are inspiring young women to explore tech careers. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening, I'm Esther Gidui. You are in for Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. Government officials in Cameroon are breathing a major sigh of relief on Wednesday after students who were abducted from their school along with their principal were freed, according to a Presbyterian church official. The students and their principal were kidnapped Monday from the town of Bamenda, located in the country's northwest region, where armed English-speaking militants are fighting for independence from the French-speaking government. In a video of the children released on social media, the captors identified themselves as Amber Boys, a reference to the self-declared English-speaking region of Ambazonia. The separatists initially said the children can return to school only when they have achieved their dream of independence. Conflicts erupted in the English-speaking regions of Northwest and Southwest in Cameroon in 2016, when teachers and lawyers complained of discrimination in education and the justice system by the French-speaking majority. Voters on the island nation of Madagascar off Africa's southeastern coast are deciding Wednesday who will be the country's next president. The winner will be tasked with improving the economy and fighting corruption. Andry Rajoelina is among three front-runners and former heads of state facing off amid efforts to defuse a political heat in the most recent President Hairy Rajaonariampianina for attempting to change the large Indian Ocean islands' electoral laws forced him to accept a consensus government tasked with organizing the election. Rajaonariampianina is competing against two of his predecessors, Marc Ravalomanana, a milk mogul, and Rajoelina, a former nightclub promoter. One presidential contender must win 50% of the vote to avoid a runoff vote on December 19. Now, in the U.S. midterm elections, the balance of power shifted in Washington on Tuesday as opposition Democrats won back control of the House of Representatives, dealing a political blow to President Donald Trump. But Republicans and his Republican Party, but Republicans expanded their majority control of the Senate, strengthening the president and setting the stage for more confrontational politics in the year ahead. VOA national correspondent Jim Malone recaps the midterm election results.
At Democratic Party headquarters in Washington, Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi proclaimed a new day in the nation's capital.
We will have a responsibility to find our common ground where we can, stand our ground where we can't, but we must try. A Democratic Congress will work for solutions that bring us together because we have all had enough of division.
Pelosi is now on track to become the next Speaker of the House, thanks to Democrats like Jennifer Wexton, who won a Republican House seat in Virginia.
I've been saying since the beginning of this campaign that change is coming to America, and change is coming to Virginia 10. And that change came tonight.
But Republicans expanded their narrow majority in the Senate with defeats of Senate Democrats in North Dakota, Missouri, and Indiana, where Republican Mike Braun emerged victorious.
Because we as conservatives, being led by President Trump, we've got to prove why our way of thinking, why what works in the state of Indiana is going to work for the rest of America. And I really believe I can weigh in on that argument.
At the White House, Spokeswoman Sarah Sanders said President Trump was pleased that Republicans had held the Senate.
Again, most of the candidates that the president actually went in, campaigned for, and who embraced the president are doing well tonight. And at the end of the day, the president's going to work with whoever comes into office.
The president's tough campaign rhetoric motivated voters on both sides, says analyst Rebecca Gill.
It sort of polarizes folks, and it gets more people engaged on both sides.
That was evident in voter interviews with a Trump supporter in California.
I agree with many of the things he's done, not everything, but many of the things he's done. I think he's got the best interest of our country in mind, both domestically and also internationally.
And with a Trump critic in New York.
Yes, well, we're hoping that he has a bad dream from which we are just beginning to awaken. First of all, by taking the House of Representatives, and in 2 years, by taking the Senate and the White House. Okay. Goodbye, Trump.
In the end, Trump was a key issue for both sides, says analyst Capri Cafaro.
There is enthusiasm on both sides, which I think is why we are seeing significantly tight races across the board in these areas that have been identified as toss-up states, toss-up races across the country.
Trump and the Democrats now face a new question. Can they work together even as both sides begin preparing for the next presidential race just 2 years away?
Now, for more on Tuesday's outcome of U.S. midterm elections, I'm joined by VOA national correspondent Jim Malone. Jim, welcome back to Africa 54.
Thank you, Esther.
I mean, the emotions have been high for weeks now, and they're still high today. The Democrats take control of the House of Representatives. What does this mean for President Trump?
Well, in the short term, it means that his agenda would have trouble getting through. He no longer has a Republican House and Senate. He has just a Republican Senate. But those numbers have been bolstered in the Senate by the election returns, primarily in Republican states on Tuesday night. So the president, there's kind of a mixed bag there for both parties. I think Democrats were happy to get control of the House, but I think there was some disappointment that they didn't do better in the Senate races.
I mean, for our viewers, most of the times we've seen the president use his executive order to change policies and sign whatever he wants to sign, bills, you know. But so what does this mean? Will he be able to use that, or will he have to get the bottleneck with the House of Representatives now being controlled by the Democrats?
Yeah, the question will be, is there any room here for bipartisan cooperation? Nancy Pelosi, the incoming Democratic leader and probably Speaker of the House, has raised the possibility, but the Democrats are also talking about using the power of the various committees in Congress to investigate possible wrongdoing within the Trump administration. So the president and the Democrats will have to decide, is there areas where they can cooperate, or will we get a repeat of political gridlock, which is what we're used to?
So what does it mean for the Democrats looking ahead? It looked like a presidential election. It's, you know, stakes have been very high. And then when you think about this race, what does it portend for the presidential election to come?
I think quite a bit, actually. I think these are significant questions. What we say in the United States, we talk about red states and blue states, red being Republican, blue being Democrat. What I think the results on Tuesday show is the red parts of the country are getting redder, more supportive of President Trump. The blue parts of the country, the Democratic-leaning parts that gave them the House of Representatives, are getting more blue and more opposed to the president. We are a polarized country, and that polarization was confirmed with the election results on Tuesday.
So what do both parties need to do looking ahead for the presidential election? Because like you say, they're polarized. Is there a middle ground where we can see Americans come together on issues?
Some of that will be up to the Democrats in the House. Do they want to completely confront Trump in all ways or try to work with him? Maybe that would help the Democratic brand around the country. The president, though, has something to think about, because in the upper Midwestern states, Republicans lost support. Why is that important? that was the area of the country that delivered the White House to Donald Trump in 2020. So there's a great risk moving ahead if the president continues to focus only on those red state Trump-based voters in the various states that we saw leading into this election.
And very briefly, Jim, what about the newcomers that have made history in this election?
Yes.
What does that mean?
Well, primarily we've had a huge surge in women members now of Congress, highest in history. We've had Muslim Americans elected, women in the House, and even Native Americans elected. So the diversity grows, but the polarization is also there around our nation.
Jim, as usual, always great breaking down this political situation in the U.S. for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Esther.
VOA national correspondent Jim Malone. Now, riding solid gains for Democratic candidates in the U.S. midterm elections are two candidates now set to make history in January when they become the first Muslim American women in Congress. As VOA's Ken Faribault reports, expectations are high for both Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar as they seek to influence U.S. policy on issues ranging from immigration reform to foreign policy.
Casting a vote for former state lawmaker and congressional candidate Rashida Tlaib wasn't about making history for Detroit voter David White. It was about making a difference.
Rashida represents everything that undermines those stereotypes. She doesn't just appeal to a Muslim community. I mean, she appeals to a wide swath of individuals, and it just so happens that she is a Muslim. That doesn't define you, and it shouldn't define you in the eyes of the nation.
It also didn't define Somali refugee and Minnesota congressional candidate, Democrat Ilhan Omar, to a diverse coalition of voters that helped her defeat the Republican challenger in her Minneapolis district.
Tonight, throughout, not only in my race, but throughout the country, people are choosing hope over fear and unity over division.
While both women were elected in districts that heavily favored their political party, voters like Allison Brooks, who cast her ballot in the same Detroit polling location as Rashida Tlaib, says this historic moment was a long time coming.
It's crazy that it's 2018 and, this could be possibly the first time that this is happening. So, I mean, we need more Muslims in Congress and in the House and Senate.
Being Arab and being Muslim is always going to be part of who I am. But just like Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he was all about justice. So much of my faith is very much embedded in that justice.
Tlaib, who also becomes the first Palestinian American in Congress, promises her reputation as an outspoken critic of President Donald Trump and his administration's policies isn't going to change as she makes the transition from candidate to congresswoman.
It's never going to happen. Yeah, it's just not in me. I think people say to me all the time, we want it different, and that's why we voted for you. We need somebody that's going to go in and fight.
A fight voter David White is confident she will deliver.
Standing up in the middle of a speech and, shouting him down, we need some of that, right? We need some of that strong resistance, even though I don't necessarily identify, with that style.
Rashida! Rashida! A style that will be put to the test come January, when Tlaib and Omar enter Congress as freshman lawmakers in a chamber their party will control.
Now I get to march into the United States Capitol.
Kane Faribault, VOA News, Detroit, Michigan.
Joining us now live via Skype from Minneapolis is VOA reporter Abdulaziz Osman. Abdulaziz, welcome back to Africa 54. Big night for Ilhan Omar. Abdulaziz, what was the reaction like from Minneapolis voters?
Esther, thank you very much for having me again. The Somali communities in Minneapolis since last night and this morning are in celebration.
Looks like I'm losing
their own after one of their own wins. Can you hear me?
I hear you, but it's breaking up. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
Okay, the Somali communities in Minneapolis are actually feeling excitement after Ilhan Omar made another historic win and goes to Washington. So there is a jubilant, there is excitement, and there is celebration among the community in here who feel that this is a historic win, and this is a win for them for the long haul as well.
Now, Abdulaziz, you've been following up with folks back in Somalia where she was born. What is the reaction like in Somalia?
Well, the Somalis all over the world in Somalia, outside Somalia, message are so excited about the Ilhan Omar success, and and even those who live in refugee camps that we have been able to speak to actually share with us their excitement and the hope that Ilhan's success will end what they see anti-Somali policy that is coming from this current administration.
Now, Abdulaziz, what does Ilhan promise her constituents? What's her first thing that she needs to do when she gets to Washington?
Well, Ilhan Omar ran on a progressive platform, including Medicare for all and also abolishing ICE. So the community here feels that Ilhan going to Washington will end the anti-Islamophobia and other message that are coming from what they see from the Republican side. And they see going or sending Ilhan to Washington will actually send a clear message to current
Abdulaziz.
His head and is part of this large community in America.
Abdulaziz, we're going to have to leave it there. It's breaking up a bit, but thank you so much for your insight into this and for reporting for us live there from Minnesota. Abdulaziz Abdi is a VOA reporter. Now, speculation is rife in Gabon on the state of health of President Ali Bongo Ondimba, 59, who has been hospitalized for 2 weeks in Saudi Arabia. Ondimba fell ill in Riyadh, where he was set to participate in a summit. Lack of information surrounding his illness has triggered rumors in the country, with social media reports alleging President Ondimba may have suffered a stroke. The Libreville presidency issued a statement saying the president suffered severe exhaustion and was admitted to hospital in Riyadh. The presidency further says there is no specific date or time limit provided by the Constitution for this case, but if the president is incapacitated, the vice president could replace him in very specific circumstances. Speaking in French on state television, a spokesman for the presidency, Ike Nguoni, said, quote, in the event of a vacancy or a permanent impediment, as noted by the Constitutional Court of Gabon, then the Senate president would take over for the interim period, end of quote. We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54. We're also streaming our show live on Facebook, so check us out and share our show with your friends. Still ahead on Africa 54, encouraging young women in Kenya to learn coding. But first, a look at Wednesday's headlines.
Polls open in Madagascar on Wednesday in a presidential election set to shape the course of an island nation struggling with poverty and corruption. In Cameroon, a Presbyterian church official says 79 students who were abducted from their school along with their principal have been released. In Gabon, the lack of information on the state of health of Gabonese President Ali Bongo Ondimba, 59, who's been hospitalized for 2 weeks in Riyadh, fuels concern and alarmist rumors. In the South Sudanese town of Yei, preparations are underway to guard against the spread of Ebola from neighboring Democratic Republic of Congo. French President Emmanuel Macron and his Malian counterpart Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta met at a ceremony in eastern France on Tuesday to remember African troops who fought for France during World War I.
Computer science jobs in Kenya are some of the fastest growing and highest paying, but a majority of people do not have access to a computer. Female coders in Mombasa, fascinated with the intricacies of computer coding, want to inspire other young women to consider careers in the field. Here's Africa 54's Paul Ndiho.
Every day, young women gather in a room at Swahili Port, Mombasa. Their eyes are fixated on their laptop screens. They are learning to code and develop mobile applications. Ruth Mawiki co-founded Pantechnogirls, a non-profit community-based organization that aims to inspire more girls to venture into technology.
Girls don't have like a female mentor they can always look up to, because it's very hard. Like, you can imagine you want to be in technology, technology is wide, you don't have someone to look up to. Like in the technology, you find that the field is actually populated with most men. So I believe that girls actually need that mentorship and exposure and someone they can always look up to.
Ruth says that she fell in love with coding after taking computer science classes while she was studying at the university. And today she offers free classes.
Doing website development, other students were working on computer essentials. We realized that we can't actually go direct to web development if someone doesn't have computer essentials. So the first stage is them finishing the computer essentials, then they move to website development.
With a good idea, an entrepreneurial spirit, and an interest in all things tech, Aisha Abaka is a co-founder at Pantechnogirls.
I was so fascinated, like, you just press a computer and then some commands, and then, you can command a computer to do something. It's like, you're the boss, you can do anything. So that's what fascinated me more. So that's when I decided to venture into software.
Young women from all over Mombasa are finding that learning new skills is extremely valuable.
Pantechnogirls empowers young girls in Mombasa, both at the university and also in high school, to venture into science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We realized that there are so many opportunities that are available in these fields, and women are not taking advantage of, especially in Mombasa.
Abubakar says training girls and giving them the right skills could help solve some of the community's problems.
There are so many problems that we face in Mombasa, starting from garbage. We have insecurity problems, water shortage. All those problems can be solved either using science, technology, engineering, or mathematics. We believe by training these girls and giving them the right skills, they're able to come up with solutions.
Amina Muhammad took coding classes right here. And since then, she has created a business out of it.
I learned about a lot in Pantechnogirls, about technology. At the same time, I earn money through that. By by developing a web for companies, I earn. Through that, I earn money. Yeah? Teaching kids, for example, young adults, I can teach them how to use a computer. I also earn from there. So it has become something that I earn. It has become a work. It's my work.
Amina says having computer skills is a plus and could certainly open up opportunities for a lot of young women.
The world of today, everything is all about technology. You go to work, it's technology. You work, it's technology. So what motivated me getting into it is, it's reached a point that you're creative, you know something, but you don't have the boost. And you're like, it's the only thing that is holding you back is technology.
For young ladies whose dream is to think big and empower more young women, Pantechnogirls has its sights set on Kenya's rapidly developing technology sector and have the potential to expand beyond Mombasa. Paul Ndiho, VOA News, Washington.
Now, one final note on the U.S. midterm elections. Colorado Democrat Joe Neguse, the son of an African immigrant, made history Tuesday night, winning a congressional seat by defeating Republican Peter Yu. Neguse becomes Colorado's first African-American member of Congress. His parents fled Eritrea in East Africa and came to the U.S. as refugees, eventually settling in Colorado. Neguse is a lawyer and a former regent of the University of Colorado, his alma mater. Welcome back to Africa 54. Here's what's trending. An award-winning app in South Africa is helping emerging small-scale farmers connect with supermarkets by making it easier for them to market, sell, and transport their produce. Hula allows businesses to order fresh organic vegetables straight from the ground. Its founders say they created the app to find African solutions to African problems. Over 600 farmers use the app. One says he's seen significant growth in his produce. He says the app has taken away a lot of the stress about how to get his goods to the market. The developers plan to expand in parts of the continent and introduce the app to other emerging markets such as Brazil and India. And finally, he's still not James Bond, but this will do for now. British actor Idris Elba has been named People's 2018 Sexiest Man Alive. Elba's breakout role was drug kingpin Russell Stringer Bell on HBO's hit series The Wire, and since then he has branched out to the big screen. Now considered one of Hollywood's sex symbols, Elba says he definitely had an awkward stage as a youth, telling people, quote, "My name was Idrissa Akuna Elba, okay? I got picked on a little bit. But as soon as I could grow a mustache, I was the coolest kid on the block." He grew a mustache and had some muscles. Bonkers. And that's what's trending today. Now, Tina Benawe's paintings are made to be felt as well as seen. The Kenyan-based artist uses Braille in her artwork so her pieces can be experienced by the visually impaired. Here's VOA's Mariama Diallo.
In a studio in Nairobi, artist Tina Benawe creates pieces for the visually impaired. She says she first had to learn Braille.
This is an important aspect when you're going to work with visually impaired individuals and blind people, that you get their language accurate.
The use of Braille matches her style, which combines text and layers of paint to create a textured canvas. She's recently been working on a project called Upendo ni Kazi, meaning love is work.
It's completely tactile, and the reason is this because we're doing it for the pediatric children who suffer from early preventative blindness. So what we're doing is we're trying to involve art as a way of opening up doors in their imagination.
The work was donated to the Intercontinental Hotel in Nairobi, where visitors Winnie Awino and Maurice Kinua were able to explore the themes of the piece. Awino permanently lost her sight 5 years ago.
After touching it, I've experienced that our society or everything that is surrounding us is in a mess, but we are not ready to do anything about it. Instead, we are trying to pull ourselves in that.
Kinua has partial sight.
When you read the painting, we have an ocean and oil which is spilling, and that gives you the picture of a very corrupt environment, an environment whereby the water that we are supposed to be drinking, the water that is supposed to be used by human beings is being corrupted, is being contaminated.
Benawe plans to produce more artwork that include Braille and even sounds.
Does it feel sticky?
Mariama Diallo, VOA News.
And that's our show for today. Be sure to watch Africa 54 on our website at voaafrica.com. For more news, tune in to VOA's evening radio show, Africa News Tonight at 1800 UTC, and in the mornings to Daybreak Africa between 0300 and 0600 UTC, Monday through Friday. Thanks for watching, and a very good night from Washington.
Welcome to English in a Minute. Woodwork is any part of a house or building that is made of wood.
Crawl out of the woodwork.
This expression sounds troubling.
I won! I have the winning lottery ticket.
Oh, that's great. How much money did you win?
I won $25,000. But please, don't tell anyone.
You're right.